In
Like,
fact, engineers are more recognized in bank
yes,
because of their analytical ability.
adaptive
And
nature. Like you can move
yes,
along different teams, different.
your how easy it was, मतलब how FRM made it easy for you to enter into these finance roles.
Correct. I think FRM gave me a platform where I could theoretically learn things, because if you join a job, right, there will be people who will tell you something, but nobody will go and in depth and let you understand things, right?
Right.
Like,
Now, for the audience, now we have already talked about quant. What does a quant team, in simple language, if you can tell, that if somebody is working in a quant team, what they are actually doing? Now, in terms of the skill set,
yes.
what
So
you feel?
skill set, I would say the analytical ability, right? So
Okay.
problem solving. So
Now, when you take, say, for example, interview for your teams, for model validation roles, what is that one or two question that you generally ask you?
yes. So generally, we look at how people are good at problem solving. So that is
Okay.
that is where we first look at.
Hello guys, I hope everybody is doing good. Hi, this is Ganesh Nayak. I help finance professionals to excel in their career and become a better version of themselves. And I also help students who are preparing for their exams like CFA, FRM, SCR. And today, as a part of that journey, we also get a lot of people from the industry to come and talk about their roles. And the similar thing we are doing today. And today we have with us Kunal Chauhan, and he's going to be talking about his experience in the industry. He is working in the quant side. So, what is exciting about quant? He's also going to be talking about this and how he has transitioned from different roles, okay, from consulting to an investment bank. So, Kunal, thank you very much for taking out time and talking to us. So, for the audience, if you can give a brief from your education background
Yeah.
to your journey.
Yeah, sure. So I am basically an engineer and I've done engineering in computer science.
Okay.
Uh, and then I started my career from college itself. I got placed from the campus. And yeah, so my first role was purely, it started with software development, and the first break which I got, the
Okay.
company was more into financial software development. So I
Okay.
got the knowledge of finance there, like from the start, and then I started getting intrigued with all the financial concept, right? So quant, and also even I already had the software knowledge, like the development and all those things, because coming from the computer science background. So I had that coding knowledge, but then I was interested more about, like, what are the quant concepts, and I used to see a
Okay.
lot of people talking about, the quant jargons, which we now say, right? Like, how do you
Right.
price this, what is the
Derivatives and all.
derivatives and all those things, right? So yeah, I was really intrigued with that, and then I thought maybe I should focus more on that, because I maybe I anyway know the software
Right.
development. So I then started thinking of going into more financial,
Functional side,
functional
basically.
side of things. Then I came across FRM that time, because I was coming from the technological background. I didn't have any financial background. So I thought of, okay, maybe I should do something like FRM certification, so that, and I
Okay.
chose FRM because I thought it is,
In sync with
yeah, exactly, that
engineering
engineering
because of the
background.
stats background also.
Correct,
Yeah.
correct, correct. So then I gave the level one exam when I was in my first shop, and I cleared that. So that time I got to understand the concepts in finance, right?
Right.
All the quantitative pricing, then other risk fundamentals, what are the different risks associated with different
Okay.
derivative products and all those things. So there I was like, I got more interested. Then yeah, so there, that was my first firm which I got interested into finance.
Okay.
And then I gave my FRM also level 1. And from there, once I cleared the exam, I started looking out for, moving more into finance, like more financial,
Okay. Immediately after level one.
level 1. Yeah, after
Okay.
level 1. So I started looking out for those roles where which will give me, and initially it was hard because I didn't have the entire, quant background. But like, sometimes some firms, they, you find some job,
Right.
like
Right.
they are just for you, yeah, just tailored for you based on what you did. So then I got a chance where they wanted someone who has technical knowledge, like the development knowledge, and then also some functional knowledge. So
Okay.
they were developing something which was more quant oriented, but it was a, development platform kind of thing. So
This was the consulting firm.
yeah, consulting
Ha.
firm. My
Okay.
second job, where I did work on the consulting part. So there got that break, and which was very very good opportunity for me also, because it wasn't completely quant, so that on the first day you go and people will be like, oh, you don't know anything and all those things. I was like, okay. So because I had that coding background, so some people used to come to me, oh, we need to implement something like this, and then
Okay.
I used to get the functional knowledge from them. So it was like give and take kind of relationship with most of the peers
So
in my
over
firm.
there, you were basically supporting banks, investment
Banks,
banks
exactly,
primarily for
investment.
their modeling aspect.
Yeah, it was more into model validation,
Okay.
but yeah, so it had their validation platform. So we were supporting them to
Okay.
automate that and then completely fully make it fully functional.
Okay.
So we were
Okay.
supporting there. So that time I was working on tech and quant. So more on quant there
Hmm.
when I left. And yeah, so that time I had mix of experience in my like consulting journey. Then again I moved to another consulting firm after
Hmm.
the second job.
Right.
There I was more into finance, not like and
That's a con consulting.
quant consulting firm.
Okay.
And then basically I got to realize, as a quant you should know both things. So I
Okay.
mean, then I realized having the technical knowledge is good, not bad. Like initially
Hmm.
I used to think that, oh, I should have more knowledge on finance, and I should just
Ha ha.
know
Okay.
finance,
Right.
core finance, in-depth finance, and derivative contracts and all those things. But I think over the time I got that understanding that that you need both as a quant, because
Hmm.
quants do develop things like
Right.
the hardcore quants. Their job is to develop low latency programs to execute the pricing engines and
Right.
all those things.
Right.
So there I got more interested, and then I thought, okay, this is
In
like,
fact, engineers are more recognized in bank
yes,
because of their analytical ability.
adaptive
And
nature. Like you can move
yes,
along different teams, different horizons.
right, right. Because I've seen in my career also a lot of engineers joining in,
Yes,
and they've been asked to do either FRM or CFA to get that flavor of the finance side.
correct,
So
correct.
I'll just take a pause over
Mhm.
here. So your how easy it was, how FRM made it easy for you to enter into these finance roles.
Correct. I think FRM gave me a platform where I could theoretically learn things,
Hmm.
because if you join a job, right, there will be people who will tell you something, but nobody will go and in depth and let you understand things, right?
Right.
Like, and having that theoretical framework where, and then you have that exam deadlines and all those things. So
Hmm.
you put in those efforts, right?
Right.
Otherwise, given in jobs, people usually tend to at the end of the day, people will be like, oh, I'm tired now, I won't be able to
Right.
study and all those things. But having that exam kind of mindset, it gives you that extra nudge that, okay, no, you have to
Right.
study, even if you have done a lot of during the day, but you still have to study and all. So I would say FRM gave me that theoretical framework along with the job, that okay, now I understood the concept
Right.
and how that those concepts are being used, because I was employed and those things were already being used in the company, right? So
Hmm.
I could see that, okay, what
Relate. You
what
could
happens
relate it better.
exactly, what happens, how do you price, let's say, an FX option, FX forward, how do you price that? So I saw that in the book, and then I saw in the actual implementation. So that
Okay.
gave me good mix of experience as well as the theoretical knowledge, which gave me boost.
And also, when just correct me if I'm wrong. So when you were coding,
Mm-hmm.
if I'm coding for an forward contract,
Mm-hmm.
I know what is this K means, what is this strike price
Yes,
means.
yes. So
So
I mean, initially, like if you are doing pure development, right? So you would know the terminology, that this is a strike, this is that, right? Like your
hmm,
what is the expiry and all those things. But understanding, like
right,
having that understanding, like background understanding, that K is where the payoff, hits the barrier or whatever, right? Like, so those kind
yeah,
of things you understand from the books, and then you realize, okay, this is how they are used, and all those things that
okay,
happens.
okay.
Yeah.
Now from that consulting firm, you move to some other company, right?
Other company, yeah.
Hmm.
So there my job was more into quantitative finance, and I was into model validation there, like completely quant
Okay.
side. And yeah, so most of these quants models, they are technology driven, like either they are implemented in house, or
Hmm.
people use different vendor systems where they use those for their risk management,
Okay.
pricing, all the quantity analysis. So
Okay.
mhm.
Now for the audience, now we have already talked about quant. What does a quant team, in simple language, if you can tell that if somebody is working in a quant team, what
Mhm.
they are actually doing?
I mean, quant has many. The quant role has like many fold uses. So
Okay.
there are different teams. So even quant is basically, the word says quant is like the numerical,
Right.
analytical things. So in banks or in consulting, there are different teams who do different quantitative
Hmm.
functions.
Hmm.
So like there are front office quants.
Right.
So those quants, they support the traders. Where, like, let's say a trader tells a quant that, okay, I have to invest something like this, like I have to do that trade, that
Okay.
and give me your theoretical, or give me the risk analysis or pricing analysis of this. How much should I invest, what is my risk appetite, based on that, all
Okay.
those things, right? So that is like a quant supporting the front office trader, those people.
Okay.
And then there are quantitative analysts who are sitting at the back end, or middle office, where they manage the risk. Like once the trade goes through, once the
Hmm.
trade is put in the system, right? So
Right.
then you have the middle office quants who monitor the risk of those trades. Like let's say
Okay.
you put in $1 million in certain trade. As a back office quant, your job is to analyze the risk, as a as a firm, how much risk you can take.
Hmm.
And if there is a if there is high chances of risk getting higher than that, then you have to uh, consult the
Right.
concerning parties, or all the stakeholders, that this is how the risk is spanning out, you need to take the actions.
Right.
So yeah, those are like middle office. And then there are back office quants, whose job is purely and the back side, like back office world, where they manage posted activities and all the reporting activities, if you would
Okay.
say.
Okay.
Like if there are certain regulations, they have to maintain those regulations and all those things. So those kind of stuff is
Okay.
done by
And
the.
model validation. So all of this quant model
Mhm.
validation ideally sits in risk.
Yeah, I mean, model validation can be front office model. So model validation, right? So model validation is part of governance process in
Right.
a bank.
Right.
So governance is a like big framework. I would say
Hmm.
it has different flavors. Validation is one part of that, and validation is specific towards all your models. So whatever model you are using for your investment or your strategy, whatever
Right.
any model which you use for your decision making in a bank for investment or other decision making,
Right.
that has to go through validation.
Okay.
And that is like nowadays, that is a regulatory requirement. So whatever model, if it is very small model
Hmm.
which is being used for your decision making, it has to go through the validation
So
process.
back testing is also done by the model validation team?
Back testing is done by both. Even the model developers also do that,
Acha.
because they have to see whether their own model is working fine. And then validation team looks at your, like, the model developers results, as well as they do their independent testing. So
Okay.
the test has to be done in both the teams. Like development also does the validation, because back testing, sorry. So back testing is something for the time series models, like VAR model, counterparty risk
Yes.
models.
Yes.
So how are they performing over the period, right? Like, so they have to be tested based on that, like whatever,
Hmm.
because those things that they have the assumptions. So if you look at the historical VAR model, people assume that like 95 percentile,
Right.
99%. So
Right.
those assumptions you have to test every time.
Right.
So they quarterly have to do that back testing also. So both
Right.
the teams need to do the back testing.
So anybody who does not have a coding background,
Mhm.
can they work in model validation team?
Uh, yeah, ideally they can work in, because model validation is, I would not say they don't need technical skills, but ideally what happens is a model validation team gets a model which is already pre-built. Right? So
Hmm.
you don't have to go and develop a code which runs the
From the
model
scratch, you
from
don't
the
have to
scratch. You
do.
don't have to develop, right? So model validation, in a way, you have to look holistically on the model,
Hmm.
and then functionally if the model is performing well or not, right? So
Right.
yeah, I mean, if you have technological background, it is very added advantage. But if you even don't have, like, if you have the functional knowledge of things,
Right.
like how, let's say you have equity option, or those kind of contracts, right? So how do you validate those contracts, like those models?
Hmm.
So as a validator, you need to have different perspective to do things. As a developer, what happens is, developer knows, okay, I have these inputs, this is the model framework I'm using.
Right.
Let's say I'm using Black-Scholes model framework. These are the
Hmm.
inputs, these are the traits which are going through the system, and they develop it. So that's like, I would say, plain
Right.
roadmap. But as a validator, you need to look at the things, like how do you break those things, right? Like
You're basically being a very
critical about. You are the critic of that system, right? So you need to understand the fundamentals of that, so that you can design some test which can try to break the system, and
Okay.
you need to analyze whether that breaking is like, if there's something is breaking, then you can realize, oh, this is not working as a,
Okay.
so you need to design the edge cases where the model is failing, like by making the strike to zero, infinity, whatever, right? So those kind of things.
Right.
As a validator, you need to be more innovative, I would say, in that sense, to have that holistic understanding of the model.
Okay.
So
And generally, the model development team and the model validation will be different teams.
they are different. So
Independent.
validation is almost entirely, in all the banks, it is independent team. So they don't have overlap, because that's again the regulatory
Okay.
requirement. So you should have actual separation between those teams.
So somebody who has worked in model validation,
Mhm.
what can be the next career jump for him? Which team he can go?
Okay, so my journey is in that, on those lines only. So I initially worked on mostly model validation, and so what happens in model validation is, sometimes because of validation they have like small cycles than the development, model development. So you get a model, you need to validate that model between 2 or 3 months, right? Based on the
Requirements.
requirements, and what is the criticality of the model. Based
Right.
on that, the timeline is set for that, and you get a next model for validation. So you get to go through a model, like different models in validation. But then what next, right? Like, you now have flavors of different models, but you haven't gone in depth to in any model, right? So then mostly people think of, okay, now you have seen different quantitative models. What if I want to go deeper into equity models, or equity, like
Okay.
volatility models? So there are different people who are like expert in different desks, so they do that development. So I mean, so my current role, I am doing model development. So it's like my journey also is like from
Okay.
validation to
Model
development. So that
So
is,
this model development that you're doing, it is very close to the front office.
yeah, I mean, models are kind of same. It's more like, for front office, the cycles are faster. Front office, like,
Okay.
you develop a model, you move on, you have next model.
Right.
For the middle office risk, or risk modeling, the cycle is larger, because you have to manage the entire book and entire portfolio
Okay. Okay. Now, if somebody wants to get into a model validation role, okay, first of all, what are the key skill set that they need? Okay, and from where they can enter into this? Which career, like you have entered from having the background of model coding,
yeah.
right? Any other areas that they can enter?
I see validations, even in people for front office. I've seen like senior traders coming into model validation. Like,
Acha.
so yeah, so, I mean, I've seen traders who do like 5-10 years trading. They are like, exhausted. Then they want to go and, like, have a little relaxed job compared to trading. I know the validation is also different ball game, but sometimes they think that if you compare that with trading, it is more
Okay.
a relaxed job. So
Right.
they move into that. So that's one category. And I mean, people from any field can enter into it, unless if you have that fundamental understanding, right? And if you can prove into, so the major hurdle becomes is, you have to convince the gatekeepers of your firms, right? Like the HRs and those people. I mean, because they also have their job, but I would say, let's say you don't have any background into this, right? So your resume will be outrightly rejected, right? So
Right.
if you have that experience, well and good, then the certifications can play a
big
huge
role,
role.
yes.
Yeah. So like, I've seen in recent past years, right? So the filtration criteria itself used to be FRM CFA, charter holder or certified.
Right.
So even if you don't have the initial background of things, if you do this certification, then it can get you break into the validation or even the development side of things.
So somebody who doesn't have the quant background or the modeling background or the coding side, but he understands the product properly.
Yeah, they can
then
get
he
into,
can easily enter.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, in terms of the skill set,
yes.
what
So
you feel?
skill set, I would say the analytical ability, right? So problem solving. So all these, when we say quantitative, they are all numerical based jobs. So analytical ability and quant focus, like you have to be very good at numbers, or you have to have that passion for numbers, like your because you have you see different big terms, right? Like you have to solve PD and all those things, numerical methods. Like if you tell people who you are like very we who don't like maths that much, right? So if you tell them these jargons, they'll be like, oh, this is too difficult, numerical
Mhm.
methods. And I mean, I've met even my friends who have done engineering, but they don't like mathematics that much. So they are also like, oh, I did that in my engineering, I don't
I
want to
don't
do
want to do
that,
it.
yeah, now. I mean, my job is different.
Right.
I like that. So people have that those things. So I would say those two things. Then communication also plays a very good role
Okay.
in validation, because you have to talk to different stakeholders. And
Mm.
sometimes what happens is you have to convince people that what is the real issue in that, right? So you have to be articulate, you have to tell the real picture of what is
Right.
happening.
Because they
And
might
then
not understand the concept.
exactly. So yeah, senior stakeholders, they may not understand. They'll be like, what is happening, I don't understand, you tell me if this is making profit or loss, right? So those things can come the
Right.
play. So you have to be like communication. I would say it's not like you need to be very good orator, but I would say you need like decent
Good
enough,
communication
yeah,
skill.
decent enough
In terms of the
communication.
coding language,
Mhm.
which language is widely used in banks?
Uh, I would say right now, not even in banks, everywhere, Python is most popular language, because
Hmm.
most of the things, like the recent developments which have happened in any field, right? The statistical libraries, the quantitative libraries, so
Hmm.
everything has happened in Python. So I would
Okay.
say Python has like got a lot of traction in recent history. I would say, if not
Right.
any other language, people should focus on learning Python, at least the basics of Python,
At
so that
least they should be able to read the code.
yeah, I mean, yes, and they should, like, if given a chance, right, like to write something from scratch, they should be able to do it, I would say.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
and nowadays I think learning is not that difficult. So
Yeah,
yeah,
learning is easy. In
easy.
terms of
Yeah,
information is easily
yeah,
available.
exactly.
Now, for the audience, what is the future that you see of model validation?
Model validation, right? So validation, I would say it will, like the future will be changing like somehow, because like I see now the more validation was more focused on quantitative aspects. Now, because of the AI models coming in, you have new horizon where people where who are validating the AI models, those jobs are also getting created.
Acha,
So
okay.
yeah, previously AI was good to have skill for these roles. Now AI is must have skill. So
Okay.
those
Okay.
roles have also come up, where because one day or the other people will have to start using AI, right?
Hmm.
And for that also, because of the regulations, they have to do the validation. Like if they,
Right, right.
yeah, even if you have a very small model which is based on AI, which is just doing the addition of two numbers, but just it is based on LLM, right? You have to get that validated. As a regulator, they will ask, did any
Okay.
validator validate that model? So
So with AI, obviously the model development will become faster.
for development, even validation will become
Faster.
quite like a little faster, because
Okay.
then you can designing the different test cases and all those things,
Hmm.
they can be done using AI. So those things also become they'll become easy, I would say. So instead of sometimes in validation, there's one part, if I have to mention, as a validator you have to create independent model. So
Huh.
developers, they create
They've created. You
yeah,
have to create a replica of it.
replica of it. So they are
Okay.
independent. For a validation, they have to create independent implementation, and they have to benchmark the results
Huh.
among the developed model and the
Right,
independent
right.
model, right? So those things will become easy now, like, because and there are, for pricing also, there are different methods of pricing something, right? So you can have one method implemented in development. Alternatively, for validation, you can use another method to see if that method is implemented correctly or not. So
Okay.
being AI native for validation, I think that will solve a lot of their problems for implementing the
Okay.
benchmark models.
Now, when you take, say, for example, interview for your teams,
Mhm.
okay, for model validation roles, what is that one or two question that you generally ask people?
Yes. So generally, we look at how people are good at problem solving. So that is
Okay.
that is where we first look at. I mean, the standard questions will be asked. Like, there will be, if you go and search on Google, or even now if you ask AI models, they will give you the standard templates or standard
Right.
questions, right?
Right.
Like, what is the Black-Scholes model, and those things are the
Hmm.
basic things. But we look at people, like people's understanding of things, so that if they have they have been thrown on a problem, how do they solve that problem, right? So
Right.
we look at that adapting capability of people. So I would say I look more on that front.
Okay.
Obviously sometimes we ask generic questions, like based on how the interview goes, right? So
Right.
if somebody is at the start, if I ask the basic question, if they are good at it, then we move and we try to grill down a little more, so that we get that understanding, oh, this candidate is good or not, right? So
Okay.
depends on the interview process, how the interview goes.
Okay. One final question. What
Yeah.
is that one advice that somebody gave you in your career that has changed your career?
I think what I like, so I got advice from a lot of people, but I always had, one person in every role of in my professional career who I used to look up to.
Hmm.
In every firm, I had, like, I used to see people, and then I had that one role model, that, oh, I want to become, if I stay here, I want to become that, like that.
Right. Right.
So I would say, looking up to people who are good in your field, or looking and learning. So and now we are in the age of AI, right? So I think pivoting on your skills is very good advice. Like
Okay.
I see people talk about, like, there are very good advices where you should learn how to learn, like you're learning how to
Ha, ha,
learn.
ha.
So learning and
That I
unlearning.
think so. Every profession
Yeah, and
has to
now
do now.
that you have this AI and everything is changed,
Yes.
because
Yes.
if you see now, the jobs which are listed on LinkedIn and all the platforms, may never know, next 6 months you won't have those jobs, you will have different jobs.
Yes. Yes.
So
Yes.
understanding what the industry needs and pivoting on those roles will be key.
Wonderful. So thank you, Kunal. Thank you very much for taking
Thank you,
your
thanks
time.
for having me.
It was great conversation. This is going to be really helpful. A lot of people who want to make a career into this model development and the quant side of
Yeah,
business. Thank you very much. Thank you.
thank you.